Alright, so for this part of the installation, you want to get the gasket on there. I end up using this 3M adhesive only because it helps out, keeping it in place while you're installing it. Now, get that thermostat in there. Get those screws in there just to hold it in place while you install the water pump. So we're just doing that so it holds it. Alright, now move that heater hose out of the way. Make sure to align the holes where they are going to get bolted onto. And once you have it sitting on there, try not to rub it too much with the gasket. If you didn't use an adhesive, then you're going to have to lean the gasket on the pump while using one of the longer bolts to hold it in place. 1 or 2 bolts should do it. And then, whoops, nobody saw that. You should be able to guide it in there easily. Once we have all the water pump bolts, let's go ahead and tighten them up. Make sure not to go super crazy on these things because they can strip and then you will have a leak. Especially if you do that on the bottom ones. So if you have this small ratchet, use this small ratchet. Do not use a bigger one, as it gives you just about enough leverage to not over tighten them. Once that's done, let's put this guy in here. If you do have trouble putting it in, try to get some sort of lubricant on there so it just slides in quickly. Grab your pliers. Sometimes these hose clamps will get worn and you will have to replace them, only because they don't tighten up as well as when they're new, and you have to go off and replace them with another one. Alright, let's put on the water pump pulley. Make sure to hand tighten these guys. Don't put it on and then start using power tools. You don't have to put them in all the way as I'm doing it, but I just decided to do it this way. Alright, now let's get the serpentine belt on there. It's off of the compressor pulley right now, so I just put it back on. Turn the tensioner clockwise. There we go. And that slides in there. Make sure they're all on the pulley grooves. Sometimes if the belt isn't, I'm tearing it. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. Now I'm tightening these 3 guys. But since I don't feel as though I tightened them enough, I brought in this guy. However, this only gets me so far because it only lets me tighten 2. That's the first one. That's the second one. And then I'm missing 1. But due to the other 2 bolts, for some reason it won't let me hold it well enough. So we're going to have to improvise, use a little pry bar right there without damaging anything, and tighten that. That's it. Moving on, putting this bracket back on. You may not have to move it. I decided to move it just to get it out of the way, since I didn't want to deal with the plastic portion that holds the actual hose. Those typically tend to break off, so I didn't want to touch that. Now for the post mount bracket. Now the 3 bolts that are on here, you're gonna have to install it with this bracket, or else you will have a fun time getting them in there. So tighten those, make sure to screw them in by hand. Once you have them down a pretty decent way, then we can start tightening them all the way. You will have to lower, or actually you will have to raise the engine a bit, since you should be supporting it. That way you can get that guy in there, especially with that lower bolt. Now here comes the mount. I went ahead and put it on the 3 holes first. I didn't tighten it. So we're going to get these guys in there, and then we're going to move the engine so that the engine mount can sit properly on the frame, as you'll see. So right here, I'm just getting these guys down, not tightening them. Now I'm going to lower the engine, and then you'll see the studs on the right and middle side pop up. Now I can go ahead and install these nuts, and then the bolt on the left side. Now I'm going to tighten these guys. I would say tighten up the engine mount first, because obviously the post mount bracket is going to tighten to the mount, so it would make no sense to do it backwards. You can, but alright, now that that's on, one, there are marks where the bolt is, as far as where the washer is at. I tried to realign them. Not necessarily a mandatory thing, but if you want, you can do it that way. And you can see how, now that I've removed the support, the engine sat down a little bit. Alright, the bottom portion of the airbox, as I said, there's plastic little grommets that they just slide into. And then that vent on the bottom, right there. Make sure that's nice and tucked in there. Here comes our air filter and the upper portion of the airbox. Alright, so put it in the hole, move it around, sit the top portion. And then this one has screws, not clips. I prefer it when it's clips. It makes it a little bit easier, but screws are doable. Not a big deal.
Can you get me a condenser
One,
and a
that's
receiver
two,
dryer
and
for
there
the
should be
belts?
one other one that I didn't show, but you'll see it. Alright, don't go crazy on that one, and don't go crazy on the other one. We're going to go ahead and connect the mass airflow sensor. Make sure the red clip is in. Tighten up the hose clamp with a flathead or an 8mm. And that's it. You're done.